in podcast form with Emma. How we doing?
I'm excited.
That's good. I'm pretty excited myself. Yeah, so let's jump into some essential questions because people had a good amount. Namely, are you like gonna be back on a regular posting schedule and stuff like that? I don't know, man. Sounds like you're asking a lot of me. If I'm being completely honest. So I have no idea when we're gonna be updating.
Yeah.
We'll see as we go. I want to do like regular, like how we did before, but I just feel like that might be wishful thinking, you know?
I feel like we could maybe get like one a week.
I feel like we probably could.
Two might be.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna space things out, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Somebody wanted to know how both of our days went because they said nobody ever asks that. My day was fine. Yeah, really nothing much to report. Emma, on the other hand, seemed to have a pretty eventful morning.
I started off my day pretty early. I woke up at like 1 a.m. and I saw I looked over because the clock is next to my bed and I saw, oh, it's 1. 1 is, and in my mind I was like, yeah, 1's like the start of the day, and I was like, I gotta get up and go, and I got up and brushed my teeth and I got dressed and ready for school, and I was like, why is no one else in my house awake? And then I just went back upstairs and I looked at the clock again and I was like, 1 a.m. is not the time I get up. So yeah.
Yeah. So did you just take your clothes off? You got back into your PJs?
I didn't.
Okay,
no,
I just
was. Yeah.
School has already ruined us, and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty fun. I'm glad to know that. Somebody asked us the Marauders or the Lorax.
Definitely the Lorax.
I was gonna say, I was like, it's always funny when people give us options, asking they're the Marauders or this, and I'm like,
or the Marauders
usually,
are the Golden Trio.
Yeah, it's almost always the Marauders, always. I literally have a podcast about it. But this, I think, I don't know, man. I've seen the Lorax once. Mm-hmm. Might have to go with the Lorax. When you
suggested doing a podcast, my first thought was about the Lorax, you know?
The movie that I've seen maybe once.
Yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Sure. Somebody asked how much will I torture them with this season.
I don't know the answer.
Not much.
Okay.
Not much. I feel like it'll be about the same as last year. I'm trying to think if there's any big dramatic things like the prank, and I don't think so.
The prank is the big thing.
Until 7th year, I feel like we're good. I feel like I feel like it'll be fine. But I thought it was fine last time, and a lot of people did not agree with me. Somebody said, do we like ABBA?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, actually, a story about that.
I was listening to that on the way here.
Nice. So, story about that. Me and Emma always used to ride to school together freshman year. We had somebody else drive us. And literally, the only disc she had in her car was the Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again. And we listened to that every
single day.
Every single day. But the best part was, it wasn't even
we blew out the speakers.
We did.
Yeah.
We actually blew out the speakers. That same person's little sister now has the car, and she's like, the speakers just do not work. So that's kind of funny. But the best part is, did we listen to all of the songs? No, we listened to 5 songs, and we skipped all the others.
The rest.
Yeah.
One of the times we would let the first 10 seconds play, and then we would skip it though.
Yeah, what was it?
That was Kisses of Fire. We would listen to the first chunk, and then we were
okay.
Alright, we're done.
That was that. But then once he started singing, we were like, no Kisses of Fire anymore. It's not worth it.
We were there for the okay.
Yes, we were.
Okay.
2 different people asked if the Marauders had a U ball, who would they take? I think the only strong opinion I have on it is that Sirius and Marlene would go together.
I feel like Remus and Lily would go together.
I feel like it would just all be a friend situation. Mm-hmm. And James, I don't know who James would go with. James would just hype everybody else up, you know?
I feel like it's I don't know, dances are a lot of just a friend thing.
Now. Yeah, but I'm Sirius and Marlene would go together, and it would convince James that they were in fact together again. He's like, oh my gosh, guys.
Guys, they made up.
They're his OTP. until he finds out about Wolfstar, he is a Black Cannon fan. 1,000%. And it's just really awkward because nobody else is.
Yeah, like both Marlene and Sirius are like, what?
They're like, can we just not? Yeah, I feel like that's pretty good. Yeah, the other fun fact is that I was talking with Emma about this. I've started writing on my school computer, and I'm just really nervous about how that's going to end up. I'm scared I'm going to get called to the office because they
like go through.
Yeah, they go through your Google Drive, but I'm not using my school Google Drive because that would be stupid. Yeah. I'm scared. It's just easier because then I can like just do it at school or whatever. But I'm scared that they're gonna go through my personal Google Drive, which they should not be allowed to do. But I'm scared that they're gonna find it. Because I don't know if it's
like the Chromebook.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the Chromebook or if it's just our Google Drives. But we're not supposed to be able to sign into our other Google Drives, but everybody just does it anyway. So like I don't know how anything works. Watch me get in trouble. Watch
our high school principal
be a regular listener to the podcast.
This is actually how I found out.
Yeah,
from reading through your Google Drive.
You found out about the podcast.
He calls you up. He's like, I'm invested in this.
He's like, I've been reading what you wrote. That would actually be so funny if, like, one of my teachers. He's a black independent. He's mad because I made Wolfstar get together in the last episode. All right, so it's summer.
Wow!
Yay!
Wish that was us.
I know, me too. So we're gonna pick up like 2 weeks into summer ish. Yeah, the times for this, I don't know. Sometimes I tried to put them in chronological order, but sometimes I'm sure something will just not make sense, or I'll tell stories in a different way, and then like I'll say that they happened in a different order. I did my best, guys.
Oh.
But it's hard because they're all separated, so it's hard to like know in what chronological order for things to happen in. But anyway, we're also getting locations. I spent literally an hour for no reason. It should not have taken me an hour deciding where everybody lives. But anyway, so we're starting off with Remus. He lives in Bristol, and but like he needs to be in a remote location. So like outside of Bristol. I found a random town called Blagden. And, like, that's approximately the location. If you live in Blagden, you're gonna be like, what the heck? But yeah, so that's, like, outside of Bristol. So that's where he lives. And, like, specifically, like, what it kind of looks like. It's a rather large bit of, like, property, but it's a small house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Small house, big land. Trees all along the perimeter because they're like, we don't like anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. The house is just constantly... It's both always calm and just always chaotic at, like, the same time. Because that's just, like, both Remus and Emmeline's vibe.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be loud and chaotic. They're not like James. But they're definitely quiet and chaotic. And
there's this, like, you don't realize it's chaotic. And
it's all chaos under the surface. But, yeah. But Remus isn't particularly close with his parents. There's some issues there related to him being a werewolf. It's just, you know, but, like, he doesn't hate them, you know, it's just kind of, they're just not close. Mm-hmm. Some of these sentences just straight up don't make sense, but that's okay.
Nice.
It's all good. I will decipher my own writing. Yeah, but he and Emmeline are besties, though. Besties for the resties, man. They are just great together. But, yeah. So the house is very small, but yeah, so, like, the whole downstairs is pretty much just, like, one large room, and then there's, like, a little bit off to the side that has the parents' bedroom, and then a little tiny upstairs that has Emmeline and Remus's. Yeah. But yeah, so it's very comfy, very cozy, very well lived in, but it's still pretty small. But this just means that this has affected how Remus's summer has gone, because, like, everybody can hear when he's talking to Lily. And that's just become a really interesting thing. Because, like, I don't know, he's just talking with Lily, and they're like, he has a female friend. He's been hanging out with these guys for, like, ever.
Madame Pomfrey has, like, written his parents, and then,
She's like, guys, you gotta be on the lookout for this gal, Lily. No, but they're just very interested, especially Emmeline, because she's like little sister vibes, you know? She's like, ooh, like, who's this? But yeah, so, but more about Emmeline. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place with Remus's little section here, but it's okay. But yeah, Emmeline was homeschooled. She and Remus were both homeschooled because with the intention of like them going to Hogwarts, but then Emmeline was a squib, so she didn't go. So once she turned 11 and was like, Mom, I'm not going to school. So this past year, she convinced them to let her go to public school. Ooh. And they've been like, they're like a generally just super like secretive family from the Muggle world. And so her going, she could make up anything about herself.
Because no one knows.
Nobody would know. And so she kind of did. She's become, like, the most popular girl at her school. She's, like, athletic. I think she does track. And just, like, is, like, crazy popular, crazy social. And then there's, like, her parents who are, like, who are just, like, we don't really do this. They're, like, we're not opposed to it, but that's just not something that we do. So yeah, so like when Remus comes home for the summer, Emmeline is just like talking about like she has all of this drama to share with him. She's like all of this. She's like and then like frickin' Susie was like being a jerk, like all this stuff. And Remus is good with this because all he has to do is like just sit back and listen. But Emmeline is constantly upset with him because like she'll be like, okay, but like how's your year at school? And he's like, oh, it's fine.
And she's like, wow, thanks.
She's like, I just told you my whole life story, but you know. It's fine. So she's super curious about Lily, especially always asking him about Lily. Yeah. It's like, how did you get to know?
Because the rest she hears is just, it was fine.
I know! And she's like, and you're always talking to this girl, and your year was just fine? Like, excuse me. She's like, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. But I think one day, there are 2 phones in this house.
So it's like where you can listen into the other ones? Yeah. Okay.
Don't spoil it, Emma. No, but there's 2 phones, and there's one in the main room, and then there's one in the parents' room. And of course, it's never a problem, because why would Emmeline go in the parents' room? Until one day, of course, she does. And of course, that's like the one day where, like, I don't know, something is happening with Lily, and Remus ends up, like, saying, like, hey, like, I love you, like, it's gonna be okay, and she walks out of that bedroom, and she's like, it's your girlfriend, I knew it was your girlfriend, and Remus is like, oh my gosh, not my girlfriend, but, like, do you know how, it was incredibly difficult to convince his parents that wasn't a thing after Emmeline told them.
Was like, she's your girlfriend.
It's like, I heard him say I love you. Yeah, so, like, for the rest of the summer, just keep in mind, Remus's parents for sure think that he and Lily is a thing. A lot of people think he and Lily are a thing. Yeah, so that's basically how Remus's summer is going. And then, so let's head over to Peter briefly. We'll only hear a little bit about Peter, but I wanted to update you on his location. He lives in Yorkshire. So it's, like, far away from where everybody else is living. It's much more north. But yeah, and his summers are always just, like, random trips across Europe with his mom. It's just constantly what he does, and he also has that kind of similar thing that Emmeline was having at school, where he can just be like, yeah, like, I'm whoever when I'm, you know, with these people or whatever.
When he's at home, because no one sees him most of the time. Yeah,
so it's, like, it's all good. So he just, like, can just become really good friends with, like, whoever he's with, and he just, like, always ends up making friends with, like, the cool people. Yeah. Like, random kids in, like, you know, Germany. I don't know. You know, he's having a good time, too. Oh, yeah, and so then his only thing for, like, the first 2 weeks, just absolutely partying with, like, random kids across Europe. While his family are like, let's go on museum tours and stuff like that during the day, and then at night Peter is like rocking.
He goes to a rat party.
A rat party. Yes, he chills with literal rats. He's like, this is my vibe now. No, but yeah, so then he, like, comes home after, like, those 2 weeks, and then he's like, shoot, I haven't even, like, thought about, like, Sirius or James or Remus, and he's like, should probably do that. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna invite people over at one point. But yeah, just know that Peter's living his best life, and that's why we're probably not gonna hear about him as much. James.
He's always interesting.
James lives, I already told you about this. James lives in the magical community of Chudley, which has the Chudley Cannon! I think that he... Okay, well, first of all, the actual physical location of this I made in between... I didn't put where it is, but it's in between London and Bristol.
Like, yeah.
So it's where Sirius lives and where Remus lives. But again, it's magic, so, like, it doesn't really make that big of a difference, but, like, it matters to me.
They can, like, teleport, so...
Yeah, so it's, like, good. But no, the Potters are, like, super long-time supporters of the Cannons, like, financially as well. They, like, basically keep
they have, like,
the
box office tickets.
Oh, of course,
season tickets.
So yeah, James's summers are usually just, like, visiting, you know, whatever neighbors he has in this wizarding community. I'm sure some kids from Hogwarts are there. Yeah, and he sneaks into the Chudley Stadium with his dad's keys that, of course, his dad has, and he, like, just watches them practice all the time, or he, like, will practice in there himself. He's, like, he thinks he is so cool. But yeah, so that's, like, his typical summer, but this summer, things have been a little bit different. He still does that, don't get me wrong, but he came to a realization, because he's sitting down first day back, he's talking with his mom and dad. He's like, yo, he's dramatically telling them the horrors that happened when Remus betrayed them and became friends with Lily. He's still pretty upset about this, you know?
He became friends with Lily.
He's like, I can't believe it.
He should want that.
This is dramatic for him. He's like, that was my girl, you know? He's a little concerned. So yeah, he's like, I don't get it, and he's just, like, going on and on. He needed a little rant about this, you know? And his parents are there, and
they're friends.
Yes. Listen, James is not the most mature. We're gonna see him mature really soon, I promise. But he's not mature, okay? He's still offended by this. But yeah, and so he's like, and he's especially offended. He's like, okay, like, I wasn't gonna say anything to Remus, but, like, the dude showed her the map. Like, dude. Like, I'm still upset about that. He's like, without, like, telling us
I
first.
only got to, like, rant to my parents, like, twice a year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so he's like, he's upset about it. Yeah. And also, at some point, like, Monty is like, yo, can I see this map? And he shows him, and he's like, what has my son been doing? Like, is he okay? Because he's like, dude. He hands it to Effie. He's like, that's literally Dumbledore, like, pacing his study. Like, he's not making this up. Like, this is real. And Effie's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
she's just like, cool, love it, James.
She's like, good job, James. But no, and then he's like, but to make matters worse, when Monty's, like, super interested in this, he's, like, especially interested in, like, the potion that Lily made. And James is like, this is not the point. He's like, even you like Lily more than me. He's like, when did this happen? But yeah, he's just really offended that Lily is really not vibing with him. He's like, I don't get it. He's like, they were sorta, but still, like, that whole
But not like Remus and Lily.
Like, and she doesn't, like, talk with him, you know? Like, she does with everybody else at this point. And he's like, I would be fine if she just wasn't a talkative person, you know, as it turned out. But he's like, she's just avoiding me. He's like, what did I even do? He's like, I don't get it. He's like, she loves Remus. She's like, she's even nice to Peter.
James.
And she hates me. He's like, I don't get it. And Effie's like, okay, well, like, what would you have possibly done that, like, might have rubbed her the wrong way? And he's like, nothing. I'm only ever literally so nice to her. He's like, you don't understand. I'm always giving her compliments. I'm always saying how beautiful she is, and she acts like I'm the worst person ever. He's like, I don't get it. And he's, like, going on, and then they realize. They're like,
They're
oh
like,
gosh.
that's the issue.
They're like, you're the problem here. And they're like, how do we do this? And Monty's like, okay, so like you like her, right? And he's like, what? No, when did I ever say that? Like,
It's like, no.
he's like, why would I? He's like, where did you even get? He's like, okay, so you like her. He's like, okay, he's like, so why are you doing something that she hates? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. He's like, yeah, she hates specifically when I compliment her. Like, they made him clarify that. He's like, yeah, which is so dumb. He's like, it's only when I compliment her and stuff. And they're like, oh,
They're like,
so
stop
he's like, why are you doing something that she hates? And she's like, well, I already told you, it's everything that I do. It's just me. It's not what I'm doing. And he's like, no, you need to reevaluate what you're doing here, because that's the issue. And Effie's like, listen, has she ever, like, literally told you to stop? And he's like, yeah, all the time. She's like, dude! You have to stop! You need to stop trying to impress her. I don't ever want to hear about you doing this ever again. Like, okay? And he's like, whoa, like, okay, like, calm down. I'm just being nice to her. She should be nice to me. And Effie's like, no. She's like, James, she's not interested in you. You gotta stop. There's not a question here. You just have to stop. You're making her uncomfortable. He's like, I'm not saying anything that would ever make her uncomfortable. And they're like, yes, you are, James. Oh my gosh. And Effie's like, listen, there are guys out there who literally just expect they can just get whatever they want from a girl if they're nice to her. He's like, okay, I'm not being like that. I'm just being nice. And she's like, but does she know that? And James is like, oh, wait a second. And she's like, does she know that you don't have bad intentions? Does she know that, like, she's okay? And, like, then James is like, oh, shoot. And it finally, it clicks. Mm-hmm. And then he gets it. And he's like, oh.
He's like, dang,
he's like,
I messed up.
No. So yeah, so it's just like then awkwardly quiet after he realizes that.
You're just like,
and Effie's like, anyway, how did Peter do with his exams? I'm really
yeah.
Just trying to change the subject to make him not feel absolutely horrible, but he does. So we finally see a little bit of James' growth here, which is much needed at this point. So, you know, a little bit into summer, you know, however long it is at this point. But he's still thinking about Lily, and he's, like, trying to, like, tell her that, like, he knows, I'm sorry, but, like, he doesn't want to, like, you know, yeah. So he keeps on sitting down and writing letters. But and then
it's just never, like,
yeah,
right.
He just gets it. He's just like, they always just feel so fake, and, like, the best way to fix this is just, like, stop completely. Yeah. So, like, if I write her another letter,
then it's weird.
Like, yeah. So he
just saying, like, he'll stop, like, annoying her, but then doing it by annoying her.
Yeah. So he's like, you know what, we're just gonna let her have her summer, and it's gonna be fine or whatever. But, like, he's realized, but he keeps on trying to write letters, and it just doesn't work. So he has, like, a bunch of half-written letters, and it's great. But yeah,
we love James. He's a bit much sometimes.
He's a bit much, but it's all good. All right, so Sirius, living in London, number 12 Grimmauld Place. We hate it. But yeah. So, but here's how I think his family dynamic is. His parents just straight up ignore him. And it's that kind of bad family life. And they love Regulus, and they just straight up ignore him. So typically how his summers go, he spends the first part of the summer just trying not to be seen. Just nothing, just chilling. And then, as the summer goes on, he becomes slowly more and more annoying, so that when the Potters in August are like, hey, can he come for the rest of August? They're just like, sure.
They're like, take him,
They're like,
please.
Take him away. But, like, it's a very, like, you gotta have a subtle balance here, because anything could, like, set off his mom. She's crazy. We don't like Walburga. But, like, this is typically how it goes. So he's usually, like, you know, trying to be good for the first part of the summer. But this year, for some reason, can't think why, it's particularly difficult, because he really just does not like, not just being in his room. He does not like being in the house because of Remus. Because, you know, they kind of dating or whatever. But yeah, he's like, I cannot wait until August. He's like, not happening. And don't get me wrong, Remus feels the same way.
Yeah, out like June?
Yeah, no. Mm-mm, zero. I could not wait that long if I actually like somebody. Not that I do. But no, it's like, you know, he's like, I'm not waiting this long. So the journal is great though, because like they just spend all this time and they like both will like stay up late and just like write back and forth, and you know, it's almost like a conversation, but it's not quite, because you know, it's not the same. And Sirius hates writing. Like Remus can deal with it, and Sirius is like, I would only do this for Remus. He's like always telling, like from like the second day, he's like, Remus, I need to like get out of here. I need to see you. And Remus is like, dude, like stay in your house, please. Please stay in your house. I do not want you to get in trouble, because that will literally be the worst thing in the world. But also like Remus is like, but like, you know, come over. You know. But yeah, and then the other thing is like, Remus is like, yeah, but like, what are we gonna do? Like, you can't come over here, because here's the second part. Remus's family hates Sirius because he's a part of the Black family, and they're like, no, we don't like them. I think that their dads went to school together. And
they just hated each other.
Yeah, no. But like, and for good reason, but they just have never believed when Remus has been like, no, but like, he's different, I promise. They're like, is he though? Like, I don't trust that. And so that's the reason Sirius is never allowed over. And according to Hope and Lyle, Remus is not even friends with Sirius. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, at some point, I didn't mention this. At some point, Remus swapped out Sirius and all of their stories for Kingsley. And was like, yeah, so actually this guy Kingsley, so they think that he's like besties with Kingsley.
They're like, how's, if he comes home and they're like, how's Kingsley doing? And he's like, why did that remember?
Oh, yeah, Kingsley's great. No, but yeah, so they think everything that Remus has described to him as Kingsley is actually Sirius.
Does Kingsley know this?
I think Kingsley was told once, because
he was like, heads up.
He was like, heads up at the train station, my parents are gonna think we're besties. And he's like, okay. he's like, sure. Nice. Like, I don't care. But yeah, so that's kind of fun. So yeah, there's like no way that like it's gonna work out for them to see each other, or so they think. But anyway, Sirius does have some sort of secret weapon, because he could not get there with magic. His parents have the Flu network like
closed off.
Yeah, they have it. They have it either closed off, or like you can only use it if like they're aware of it and stuff like that. So it's not gonna work out. And obviously he can't just like fly, because he doesn't have an invisibility cloak, and also like flying, like, let's not do that. And then but he does have something up his sleeve, and that something is his motorcycle. Because I think that this was a passion project of Sirius and Monty. They just built it together when he was like 13, during like the August that he was over there. And then it's always been Sirius's. But then this past year, Monty was like, you know what? And they hid it like in London someplace.
And just they like magic.
Yes, and like, yeah, and it's like hidden with magic. But it's there in case Monty was like, listen, if in case you ever need to get out without magic, you can't let us know, something like that. Like, this is what it's here for. Like, for emergencies only. And Sirius is like, we both know I'm not just gonna use it for emergencies.
He's like, I'm bored, and guess that's an emergency.
Yeah, but anyway, but he still can't do that because Remus is family. So that's the vibes. Until, you know, they're writing to each other one night. And Remus is like, listen, Emmeline has become so freaking popular. It's like, it's insane. He's like, you'll never believe what just happened. She's literally convinced my parents to go with her to meet one of her friends at, like, their beach house or whatever. Off of, like, I don't remember what the beach is.
Off the beach.
Yeah. I think it's Cardiff or whatever it's called. But anyway, so they're, like, literally invited them to, like, go to their vacation home that they have there and, like, have dinner with them and go out to the movies and stuff and get to know, like, each other's parents. He's like, that's insane. My parents would never do that normally. He's like, it's crazy. And Sirius is like, wait, when is this happening? And he's like, Friday? He's like, why? And he's like, so you're not going with them? And he's like, yeah, why? And he's like, well, I guess I'll see you Friday. And he's like, wait, hold up, what? Because Remus doesn't know about the motorcycle, like, that it's that it's, like, you know, at Grimmauld Place. He doesn't know
He's like,
that.
are you walking here?
He's like, what, he's like, you can't just, what do you mean? And Sirius is like, I guess you'll find out. Just doesn't say anything else. So now Lily.
Mm-hmm.
Lily has been stated in the books that she lives in a place called Cokeworth, or Cokesworth. I feel like it was Cokesworth and I just wrote it wrong. Anyway.
Cokesworth, not Cokeworth now.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, but for the sake of everything, we're going to say it's near Birmingham because it's not a real place, and so I've decided it's near Birmingham, and that's just kind of the vibes. So yeah, Lily is, like, at her wit's end. It's, like, 11 at night, she can't fall asleep, and also, she's just generally frustrated with, like, Petunia or something, I don't know. I didn't write that much. But anyway, so she's just chilling, and then just a paper airplane just flies through her open window. And she's like, what the heck? And so then she sits up and she sees it, and then she realizes it's not just any paper airplane. It's a paper airplane folded in a specific way that only she and Severus knew how to do. Because, you know, they were besties in elementary school, and it was, like, a secret way, and, like, it was, like, their thing, and everybody was like, how do you do that? And they're like, it's our secret way.
It's secret.
But yeah, so she sees that, and she's like, bro, what? And then so then she goes, and she picks it up, and then she looks out her window, and he's just there, and it looks like he's walking away. He did not expect for her to be awake. And she's like, dude, what are you doing here? And she, like, scream whispers out, and he's like, I'm good. What do you mean? And she's like, what is this? And he's like, she's like cursing at him and stuff. And he's like, it's a letter, it's an apology letter. She's like, I don't want your apology. And she crumbles it and she throws it back at him. So then Severus is like, okay, fine, like, I'm gonna leave. And then, like, under his breath he says, like, when did you become such a B-word? And she thought that she would hear, but then she says, probably the same time I became a mudblood. So they're not on good terms, I'd say. Yeah. So then she shuts the window and is very dramatic and, like, draws the curtains and everything. But yeah, so she's just sitting there, like, still in the dark, just not knowing anything. But she has a phone in her bedroom. And so, because she's the favorite child. But, like, don't worry about it. Petunia's not bitter, don't worry. So she decides to call Remus. She's like, I know it's late, but, like, does Remus ever sleep? No. But also, this is the same time, this literally happened as soon as, like, Sirius is like, hey,
I guess you'll find out.
I'll be there on Friday, and just stopped responding, and so then he hears a phone call, and he's like, is it Sirius somehow? And so he, like, goes and he picks it up, he's like, hello? And she's like, hi, Remus. So and he's, like, so confused, but he's like, okay, I guess it's just Lily. Oh, well. And so he's just sitting there, and now he's, like, committed to a conversation with Lily. So yeah, but she's like, guess who decided to show up and throw a paper airplane in my window in the dead of night? He's like, it was not Severus. And she's like, yes, it was. He's crazy. She's like, I swear. She's like, I'm gonna have to, like, hide and barricade myself in, like, my bathroom or something in order to, like, avoid him. Because apparently he hasn't left her alone.
Not
like, at all. And it's really difficult because, like, her family, like, knows him and has, like, been really close with him. And they're like, come on over, Seb. And she's like, nope, not anymore. So yeah, so that's the whole thing. So Lily's complaining for, like, 30 minutes about this. And she's like, also, we have to do something together soon. Like, we gotta hang out sometime. And he's like, yeah, I know, but, like, what are we gonna do? This is a very common conversation. But then at some point, he's still sitting there. He left his journal in the other room. So he's just sitting there and he's like, But he's, like, he's not committed to this conversation. So then he actually is like, you know what, I'm so sorry, Lily. I really have to go. And she's like, okay. He's like, yeah, I was really busy. And she's like, it's like 11 at night. And he's like,
I got a lot going on.
and he's like, listen, there's things, you know. He's like, actually, wait, no, sorry, I woke up my mom by talking to you. She's like, you could just bye, Remus. And he's like, bye. Yeah, so anyway, let's go back to Remus losing his mind over here. So he goes up. He goes upstairs and he grabs the journal, and Sirius has finally written him back, and he just says, quote, relax, Mooney. There's no need to be so wolfish.
And he's like, this is what I hung up on Lily for.
He said, I'm only coming to visit. And Remus is like, at that pun, he just wants to burn the notebook. He's like, I don't even care anymore. No, but he writes back to Sirius, and he's like, Sirius, it's really not worth it. Like, if you're gonna end up getting hurt or something, and like, he's like, it's worth it to me, so it's gonna be fine, and I'm coming, and there's nothing you can say about it. And he's like, but like, also he gets butterflies, because he's like, it's worth it to me. Ooh. I feel like I've created this like flirty Sirius that just, not this flirty Sirius, this flirty Remus that just straight up not exist. I just don't know how to read things aloud, so that's interesting. But anyway. So Sirius is still writing, and he's like, where did you go for so long? I got lonely here. And Remus is like, stop being a child. No, but he's like, Lily called. It sounds like Severus is being creepy in the middle of the night. And he's like, wow, that's a lot, even for him. He's like, yep. No, but then Sirius is like, okay, but like, I promise I'm gonna be safe. My parents won't even realize I'm gone. They're like still in that like whole I'm ignoring you phase. So like it'll be fine. He's like, it'll just be in and out for one night. And he's like, Remus is like,
he's like, not too sure about this.
Not sure how I feel about that. But he's like, but Remus, he's like, seriously, I won't do it if you don't want me to do it. He's like, I just really miss you, and it's been weeks since the last day of school, and we haven't talked. And he's like, that's a little weird, especially, like, in the beginning of a relationship, to just, like, not...
You're just like, bye.
You're just like, kiss, bye, see you in, like, 2 months or whatever. Like, no. So he's like, we need to just, like, at least talk and, like, make sure that we're good, because, like, writing is just not doing it.
Yeah.
And then it's, like, 30 seconds of just nothing, and then Remus finally writes, okay. But, like, I feel like it's important to note, he wrote out okay, like, O-K-A-Y.
I don't know if that makes it better.
I don't know. It adds something for me. And Sirius is like, okay. And he's like, just don't get caught. And he's like, when have I ever gotten caught before? And he's like, a lot of times. But yeah, anyway. So that's kind of fun.
Anyways.
Yeah. So I was gonna like put something in between these two things, but I just didn't. So now we're just at the...
imagine Peter, like, with a bunch of rats.
Yeah. So that's what happened in between, but now it's Friday. So for the past few days, Remus has been losing his mind, and Emmeline is like, what you losing your mind about here? She's like, I'm sure it has something to do with Lily. He's like, can you shut up about Lily? He's like, super jumpy, and she's like, it's not even close to the full moon. Why are you jumping? And he's like, listen, am I not allowed to have feelings? Is that it? I'm just a werewolf to you. That's it. I'm not even your brother. She's like, yeah, you don't get any emotions. That's for muggles only.
I love her.
Yeah. Sometimes I just have conversations with with those two, and there's just no nice way to fit it in, but I'm like, that's a conversation that happened. But anyway, finally it's Friday. He still doesn't know what's happening. Yeah. Sirius has given zero information.
He's just like,
I will see you on Friday. He's like, what does that mean? How is he getting here? Like, anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the day passed, like, so slowly.
Yeah.
This is what the bullet point says. It says, the day passed slowly. It was horrible, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Stressful day. Just
keep that in mind. So then it's finally time for his family to leave. And Emmeline definitely realizes, like, she's like, it's something when we're gone. Like, something's gonna happen here when we're gone. But his parents don't notice because they're, like, panicking because they're, like, gonna talk with muggles for, like, the first time in forever, or talk with people, like, I don't know. And then, after they left, Remus stress cleans the entire house.
Love that.
And I gotta give a good impression. He lives in, like, a freaking mansion, like they share a room. I know. after that, after he's obsessively cleaned the house, now he's just chilling. He's just sitting on the couch and just waiting.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at the fireplace because he's like, this is how he's gonna get here. It's the only logical explanation, right? No. And then he's literally just sitting there. Just he like tried to like read a book. It's not happening. So he's just sitting there staring. And then
He was like,
I know. And then he hears a little. And he's like, there's not a lot of people that like live anywhere near him. So he's like, man, who has a motorcycle? Who got a motorcycle? Like, that's crazy, dude. And then he's just sitting there. And he's like, wait. And he stands up. And he's like, wait a second. It's him, isn't it? And he goes to like his front window. And like he sees the light of the motorcycle and it's coming down like his place, and he's like, oh my gosh. And he like, yeah, he like books it outside, and he's just like yelling incomprehensibly at Sirius, just like, what are you doing here on that freaking motorcycle? I don't like it. It's so weird. And Sirius is just like laughing at him being completely frustrated. But then they go and they hug. They just need a tight hug here for a second because they need each other. And then, yeah, all Remus could say, even though he just yelled at Sirius for like a solid 30 seconds, so he's like, I missed you. And he's like, me too. And it's cute.
Nice, yeah.
I am really bad at writing scenes like this because I wrote, and of course they have a little smooch, but nothing too crazy. But yeah. So then Remus is like awkwardly realizing, he's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So he's like, do you wanna like go inside or something? And Sirius is like, yeah, I could get some water. I've kind of been like driving for like 2 hours.
Dude.
And Remus is like, dude, why did you do this? This was a stupid idea. So they go in, and you know, the one thing that I wrote from this little interaction is like, Remus's family has a piano, and so as soon as he walks in, he sees like the piano in the corner. He's like, you play piano and you didn't tell me? He's like, whoa, hold up, I don't play the piano. My mom and my sister do. And he's like, you have a piano and you don't play it?
Oh my god.
And Remus is like, dude, don't you like, you have like this prim and proper house, you're telling me there's not like a random grand piano somewhere? He's like, no, my mom hates the piano, so I was forced to take the violin though. And he's like, you did not take the violin. He's like, I did take the violin. Yeah. He's like, you're not allowed to tell James though. He's like, I've spent my entire life hiding this.
He's like, this is the one secret I have.
He's like, and I am continuing on hiding it. But yeah, so he's like, yeah, this can be like our first like relationship secret, you know, something that you tell me that you don't know anybody else, is that you play the violin. And Sirius is like, oh, so it's a relationship now, officially? Is this like for realsies? He's like, and Remus is like, yeah, and he's like, oh, I thought you were just some guy that I just like snogged in a classroom or something.
Remus is like, fine then.
He's like, fine if that's all I am to you. You know, it's that kind of thing. But Sirius is like, well, actually no. He's like, I'm sorry, we can't be in a real relationship until we go on a real date. And he just stands up, like prepared to go.
He's like, all right, we're gone.
Remus is like, what do you mean? And Sirius is like, well, did you think we were just gonna chill here? Like, nah, I got some plans. I got plans for this date. And Remus is like, okay. He's like, I guess that's fine. And then he walks outside and then he sees the bike and he's like, wait, no. You're not taking me on that. He's like, yes, I am. Get on. He's like, you wear the helmet. If you don't do this, we can't date. So sorry.
Wow.
It's like a solid, like, I don't know, a solid 5 minutes of like, I'm not doing this. And he's like, you're gonna kill us. And he's like, literally, I'm fine. I literally got here. Yeah, I think my favorite thing that I wrote from this conversation was like, seriously, like, look, I got here fine, no scratches, but you, he's like, I lived you for 2 weeks, and you have this huge scratch on your face. He's like, I'm a werewolf! Dude, like, what do you want from me? But yeah, so eventually Remus gets on the bike and they go off, and it's great. But yeah. Anyway, so James is at his house. He realizes he got a letter from Peter and it was like, hey, we need to like hang out together and like here's the time. And James is like, okay, and it's James's job to tell Sirius because he and Sirius have the mirrors, and so like it's a way to like communicate without that whole thing. So he looks at the time. He's like, oh, I think it's like after dinner or whatever. Like I'm sure it'll be fine. So he goes up. He looks in the mirror and he's like, he has to say Sirius, and he says Sirius, and nothing happens. And he's like, Sirius Black. Nothing happens. He looks at the clock. He's like, okay, no, for sure, like. Where is he? He's always in his room at this time, and I'm getting a little concerned. He's like, Sirius? Are you okay, Sirius? Yeah. And then he, like, sees something flicker, and he's like, oh my gosh, Sirius, what's wrong? And, like, nothing is happening, and he's kind of panicking, and he's, like, about to, like, run down and get his parents before Regulus appears in the mirror, and he goes, can you shut up for, like, 4 seconds, please? He's like, wait a few minutes, and then he just immediately disappears. And James is like, what just happened? So yeah, it said, James likes to pride himself on his intelligence. When given a situation, he can usually tell what's going on rather quickly. But he sat here for a solid 2 minutes, completely confused, until the mirror, like, glowed gold again, which is how, like, they like, it. Yeah, it's, like, calling.
That's, like, it's, like, ringing.
Yeah. And so it's, like, he picks it up, and he's, like, and he sees Regulus again. And he's like, what do you need? And James is like, serious? And he's like, he's out. Try again later. And he like almost puts it down again. And he's like, wait a second.
What do you mean he's out?
Hold up. Where is he? Is he okay? Like, what? He said, I don't know. He's like, then how do you know that he's out? And he said, he told me. And he was like, where did he say he was going? He said he told me he was going out. He's like, frankly, I thought it was going to be with you, but, like, I guess not.
Apparently not, yeah.
And James is like, where the frick is Sirius? And he's like, how do you have his mirror? And he's like, well, when Sirius didn't show up for dinner, our mom decided that it would be a good time to just go through his room. She asked me to help. And when the mirror started glowing and shaking, I took it before she saw, because I knew that she'd have a fit if she knew that he was talking to you. And he was like, okay, but you know that he talks to me on the mirror? He's like, I sleep in the room next door. Like, yeah, you guys talk well into the night. Like, it's okay. But James was like, dude, he's shook here.
James is going through a lot. There's some revelations to him.
There's some things, and also, like, I don't know, like, Sirius and Regulus kind of hung out, and, like, we'll talk sometimes at Hogwarts, but, like, that's not something that the others really know about.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really, so he doesn't even know that they, like, are on speaking terms, and he's like, he freaking took the mirror and, like, protected it from his mom, and, like, what is happening here? Okay, and so, James doesn't say anything at this point, and he's like, and then Regulus is like, okay, well, what was so important that you were calling? And James was like, oh, it was nothing. I was just worried when he didn't answer. And he was like, okay, goodbye. And James was like, wait, hold up, again. And Regulus is so annoyed. He's like,
oh my gosh.
He's like, I do not want to have to deal with this man ever again. He's like, what is it? I should not even be talking to you. But James is like, okay, but, like, hold up. Is he gonna, like, be okay, like, when he gets back? Because, like, your mom and everything, and, like, I'm worried here. And for the first time, Regulus kind of, like, James sees, like, he, like, actually is, like, real and not, like, I'm this haughty person and I can't believe I have to talk to you kind of person. He's like, it's like, I think so. She got rid of everything Muggle in his room, so hopefully that'll be, like, all that she does, or whatever. And he's like, what was Muggle in his room? And he's like, books. He had a ton of them under his floorboards, and she found them all. And James is like, oh, those were Remus's books that he took over this summer. And Regulus is like, well, he should have known that she'd find them. She always finds stuff. And then immediately Regulus is, like, back to him, and he's like, well, I'll let him know that you want to speak with him when he gets back. Bye. And then he like, closes it. Yeah, but James is sitting there, he's like, what just happened? He's like, I just, like, had a genuine conversation with Regulus Black, and I'm not too sure how I feel about this. I also feel like it's important to mention for everybody listening, I don't ship Regulus. That's not what this is. I'm so sorry. Don't think that this is, like, leading up to something. This is literally probably it. but I still wanted to have an interaction between them. But yeah.
You can't be, like, best friends with someone and not, like, talk to their sibling at least, like, once.
Yeah, just, like, one random time. So yeah, so this is when I finally wrote, "Final scene, Elizabeth, you need to stop writing," in my bullet points. Okay, so the date was perfect.
Oh my god.
It was so good. Sirius apparently scoped out the really small town that, like, happens to be, like, neighboring, like, wherever the frick he lives.
Yeah.
Um,
Just, like, out in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, so he, like, found, like, an ice cream shop, and it's, like, very suspicious looking and, like, not very great. But he's like, I found an ice cream shop. So they went there. And then, like, for some... Oh, I wrote this and I forgot. Yeah, they were at the suspicious ice cream shop where Remus had to desperately convince the shopkeeper that Sirius was not, in fact, intoxicated because Sirius didn't know how to deal with muggle money. Oh my gosh. And the guy was getting very concerned because, of course, Sirius tried to pay. He was like, I got this. He's like, I don't know how any of this works.
He hands over just, like, a pile of gold bars. He's like, this will do.
But then also, of course, Sirius managed to find, like, a record store in, like, this tiny freaking town. He
just, like, summoned it.
He really did. But no, he's like, Remus had to convince him to, like, not buy, like, the literal entire shop.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't even have a record player, Sirius.
And he's like, I can buy one here.
He's like, I could always get one, you know. Yeah. But anyway. So eventually, you know, they did some other, like, exploring and random stuff. But eventually, you know, they just returned to, like, Remus's house or whatever. And they just sat outside and just, like, talked for just, like, forever.
Yeah.
And it felt just like those nighttime chats at Hogwarts, but, like, so much better because now they're not, like, hiding anything and everything. And Remus is like, I can't believe I was, like, nervous for Sirius to show up. It's just Sirius. You know, things were never awkward between them, and now they were just even better, and it's all so cute. Yeah, the only other thing I mentioned was, you know, they're just sitting there, and they're, like, kind of cuddled together against the wall. It's so cute. But, you know, since he's, like, snuggled up to him or whatever, he, like, feels something in, like, his pocket of, like, his jacket, and he's like, what is this? And it's the journal.
Aww.
And he's like, you took it here? And he's like, oh, yeah, I take it everywhere. It's, like, always on me, just in case. And it was just, like, it was so sweet. You know, and it's just great. No, but then the only thing that, like, is actually kind of important is that they talk about, like, what they're gonna do going forward. Because, like, neither of them really want to tell James and Peter anytime soon. Partly because they're like, okay, we don't know how they would react to, like, the whole gay thing. But also just because that's just kind of not who they really are.
Both of their friends are kind of, like, intense, too.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to just hold it back a little bit. And so, you know, they're just like, I don't know, I just always see, I don't know, this is my own personal thing here, but I always see in fan fictions them just being, like, a super public couple or whatever, and I'm like, Remus would not. Remus would never. I don't know. It just doesn't fit my vibe with him. So he's like, I'm good keeping this private, like, as long as you want. And Sirius is like, okay, cool with me. So that's what they end up deciding to do. The only thing that they're worried about is they're like, can we actually hide this from James and Peter? They're like, not telling them is something, but, like, hiding it is another thing entirely.
James might be easy, but Peter, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Because James.
Who knows with James, but who knows with Peter, honestly. But yeah. So then finally Sirius is like, okay, it's late and I do have to drive, like, all the way home on a motorcycle. And he's like, great. But he's like, Remus is like, okay, you could just, like, my parents aren't gonna be back for, like, a while. And he's like, okay, but, like, if I miss breakfast as well, like, it's not gonna be good. So yeah, so eventually he and Remus say goodbye. And that's that. And Sirius goes on his way, and that's the end of the episode! Yay!
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was very long, and I'm not sure, I don't know, things happen, but it's just, they won't be as convoluted. So it's pretty great, pretty fun, pretty fresh. Any thoughts that you'd like to share with the group?
Good.
I can't imagine you in Socratic seminars, because every single time we're done with anything, you're just like, it was good.
my goodness.
Yeah,
I have to like plan out what I'm gonna say in those.
I really liked James and Regulus. I really liked writing that interaction.
That was,
it was really funny.
Mm-hmm. I'm loving Peter, living his life, having a good time.
He's having a great time. He is living it up. Every single summer, he's like, party.
Yeah.
And like, and I think it's funny because it's like Remus's summers are just like quiet and peaceful.
So nice.
And even Sirius doesn't get to do much.
Until like
James
the last
just plays
month.
Quidditch.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then Peter
is a
just
party
goes at
animal.
it. He lives his
He's
life.
killing it, bro.
Yeah.
Loves it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's finish it up because it's already a super long episode. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Shout out to formerly known as Somalia Black, now known as Ren the Metamorphologists on TikTok for doing the cover art. I really appreciate it. And a big shout out to Benji Wilson for doing the music. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.